good. I really do. You can help.
Welcome everybody, I'm Bill Fournier, I'm the facilitator of the history group. We've got a short PowerPoint that talks about some of the hydro discoveries of turbines, different kinds of wheels. They were called runners. A little bit of the background history, and Lon Pelton is with us to talk about some of his family as well, and show us his latest model that he's built of a Pelton wheel. So I'll give a little bit of the background and we'll move along. Pelton had discovered the power possibilities contained in the shape of a cow's nose. And there is a newspaper article that goes with that. You know, water wheels were idyllic, but they were not efficient. There are all sorts of those, undershots, overshots, any number of different kinds. A little bit of water wheel history. They've been used for over 1,000 years to power mills of all sorts. Some of those that people remember are some of the old grist mills that operated. Dexter's had an old grist mill here next to the canal at one time. The mills along the canal were all powered by water wheels. In the 19th century, efficiency improved. Canal was built in 1827 to 1829. By 1847 or so, Holyoke was building a dam and 3 canals. And they all used water power as their source of power. Electric generators got developed in the 1800s and turbines became a natural source of power where water was available to run them. I remember as a kid going into the Medlicott, which is a building that's not there anymore on the canal, down into the pit where the water came through, and it ran a DC generator at the time. As the wheel turns, in 1826, Bill Fournier developed a high-efficiency outward-flow water turbine. You'll see some of these wheels in a minute. The actual turning portion of a turbine is the wheel, or the runner, as it's called. Poncelet designed an inward-flow wheel, discharged the water in the center. Some of those have the problem of cavitation. The water kind of backs up. A propeller on an outboard drive boat, for instance, there's slip, the churning of the water loses power. So that was one of the inefficiencies. And S.B. Howd obtained a U.S. patent in 1838 for a similar one that had the central discharge. James B. Francis in 1848 was the head engineer at the Locks and Canal Company over in Lowell, Massachusetts, and all of those factories were powered by water. And he did some analysis to figure out the best designs for different kinds of water supplies available. Francis turbines are currently used by the Holyoke Gas and Electric Company to generate water at the Holyoke Dam, which is a low head dam. They measure head in feet, and that is only 35 feet tall. They also operate another generating station over by Granville and Russell, it's actually owned by Springfield, but they operate it for them, and it's over on the Little River. That one is some 425 feet of head.
Of drop?
Pardon?
Of drop? Water drops?
Water drops.
400?
Yeah, from over at the reservoir on the Little River down to the Russell area. It's a 425-foot elevation drop. And that's great for a Pelton wheel. Pelton wheels love a lot of head pressure, and they operate at very low speed, versus the other ones, they have low head, but they operate at very high speed. High speed gives you a lot more wear and tear. The Holyoke does use the Francis wheel. And this is one where the water comes in and creates the spin. Here's the Pelton wheel, where the water simply squirts into the cups and the wheel turns. The water simply falls out of that wheel after it's done its work. Fixed pitch propeller, again, it has the problem of cavitation, this churning of the water. The Kaplan has blades that are adjustable. This Turgo wheel is a takeoff on a Pelton wheel, actually. And the crossflow is a whole different breed. This is James Francis. And this is a Francis style wheel. Complexity. While having the flexibility of the variable pitch and everything, a large amount of study has been done because of bearing problems and also that cavitation problem, that power loss. Smith-Kaplan turbine. Keep some of the names in mind because they come up in different combinations. Some designed, some manufactured, some got into partnerships with each other. Again, this has the draft tube. A Hunt McCormick and a Hunt Francis water turbine. Rodney Hunt was in Orange, Massachusetts. The fellow, Mr. Ducheney at Holyoke Gas and Electric, said that he knew of only 2 of the Hunt turbines that were used in the Massachusetts area, the Holyoke area. They were at Chicopee, on the Chicopee River. So although they manufactured, they weren't commonly used in this area. Up here, it mentions the estate of E.L. Cooley. We'll see him in a minute. Treatise relative to the testing of water wheels and machinery by James Emerson. He's a character who tested the wheels of all sorts of different manufacturers in a flume at the Holyoke Dam. We saw James Francis mentioned, and here is a testimonial by James Francis' son. Francis was out of the country at the time when this was reviewed by the younger Francis, and said, great, it has all the kinds of information we want to be able to select a turbine that fits the need for a particular mill given a particular source of water. So quite a complexity to all of this. Here's Holyoke Water Tower. This is the dam, Mount Tom in the background, and a letter to E.L. Cooley from the guy who is Mr. Sickman running the testing flume at the time of the letter in 1910. Talks about a right-hand wheel or a left-hand wheel. Somewhere in the way back in high school education, we did an experiment to see which way water naturally spins. You know, as it goes down your drain in your sink, it'll go to the left in one hemisphere and to the right in the other. And they have the right-hand spin built into the wheels in this hemisphere. Helps get rid of the water. Holyoke made some wheels, the Holyoke Machine Company. Again, it's a mixed flow kind of design. There are veins that lead the water in and veins to discharge the water. And they're housed in a turbine. This would be the runner on the left and the whole turbine on the right. Eventually, they were manufacturing in Holyoke and Worcester as well. And some advertising for the Hercules machinery by the Holyoke Machine Company, and now they mention that they're in Worcester totally. Yet another one, S. Morgan Smith, a respected maker, mentioned in combination with Kaplan. And again, it is the propeller design. McCormick turbines. McCormick, Lon has brought some information about the Pelton wheel as well. And in here, it also indicates one of these McCormick horizontal kinds of machines. This is Morgan's first wheel, and it's a relatively simple device of some curved vanes which the water enters, and in passing through adds force, and it spins around, as does the clock. Here's where the problem of cavitation comes in. Here's the water level above the dam. Water comes down in, goes out through the turbine, and it discharges into a back pressure. It's not a clean flow away kind of situation. Of course, water is fluid, and you know, as a liquid it does move relatively easy, but also it does create that cavitation problem. Real technical kinds of stuff. There is so much out there. If you Google water turbines, it's amazing how much stuff is out there. Pelton wheel, this is speed, this is pressure, the head pressure. Pelton wheels operate great back here. Here's the Francis wheel, the mixed flow wheels we saw, the Kaplan, and those propeller type tubular turbines. 1906, another treatise was done by the government in testing water wheels further. Getting rid of the water. Here's one of those that's got a central discharge, and that's not bad if you've got a flow where it just shoots out of the dam as it does out at the Hoover Dam. You'll see these great gushers coming out. They talk about turbines running faster than the water that drives them. There's some consternation over this thing of getting rid of the water. And the basic thing is that he's talking about a wheel that has great velocity at the outside of the wheel to get rid of the water versus the theory of getting it out through the center of the wheel. So, aha. The water squirts in, does its work, falls away, and flows away. And it is the Pelton wheel. Here's the head. There's the nozzle. It sprays into the cups. We don't have much light. Cups. Falls away and simply discharges. If the head here at discharge were even up here, it wouldn't slow the Pelton wheel. Here's a Pelton wheel in an application. The twin cups, the nozzle, and a generator. What is it all about?
Is the nozzle splitting its output between the two cups? One
The
nozzle, two cups?
reason for the two cups and the split is that all of the force of the water goes into the cup tangentially, meaning it all strikes and does complete work before it falls away. So that's the reason for the cups.
I just want to know, where's the nozzle aimed?
Is there what?
Where is the nozzle aimed relative to the cups or?
Okay. Picture's going to come up.
Okay.
The cow. One day in the summer of 1860, a miner toiled on his claim at North Bloomfield in the United States, washing the gold-bearing gravel. So, upon finding this, I go, North Bloomfield, yeah, that's over near Tariffville. No. There is a North Bloomfield over by Tariffville, but this North Bloomfield is in California. And we'll see a little bit more about what that looks like. For this purpose, he used a long length of hose. The fall from above was considerable. The water gushed from the hose with great force. Then a simple thing happened, which ultimately provided the world with a wonderful invention. Excuse me. The cow came down to the workings to quench her thirst and was in danger of upsetting some of the sluices. The miner turned the hose on her, struck her in the nose, in her cup-like nostrils, and the head jolted back. So he was impressed with the effect that the water had when it contacted the cow's nose, and in an hour he was rigging up a wheel with empty cans. Thus the beginning of the Pelton wheel forms the basis of great turbines which transform water into electric energy. The miner was Lester Allen Pelton. While still working on his claim, he built a model. However, success did not come until 1885, when the machine was shown at the San Francisco Exposition, and businessmen provided some capital and created the Pelton Wheel Company, Water Wheel Company. Lester Allen Pelton, and one of the patent drawings. And here you can see the split cups. If you look directly up or directly down, you see how the cups are canted a little bit?
You've got the new license, right? Yeah. You know, to be on the safe side.
The reason for that is, as the wheel is coming down, it's dumping water, goes back up around, and at 90 degrees, it's already in a position to be struck by the water the little gap allows, even as it comes down, for water to spray into the next one as well as into this one. But that little bit of canting, that 30 degrees or so, is mentioned in the research. And it makes it much more efficient as it's coming down around to have an early bite and a continued bite and a full amount progressing as the others are forcing it around to drop the water quickly. Born September 5th, 1829, passed away March 14th, 1908. He contributed significantly to hydropower and hydroelectric power in the Old West and worldwide. In the late 1870s, he invented the wheel, at that time the most efficient design of impulse water turbines. Recognized as one of the fathers of hydroelectric power, back in the West, they coupled one of his wheels to a recently invented generator. And that history goes on. When we get to California, I'll mention it. Awarded the Elliott Cresson Medal, which is now called the Benjamin Franklin Medal, during his lifetime, and most recently he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Born in a log cabin in Vermilion, Ohio. His grandfather, Captain Josiah Pelton, lost his assets as a sea captain during the War of 1812 and shortly brought his family to Ohio. Lester's father was Lon Pelton. His mother was Fanny Cudback, another local early pioneer family. And as a youngster, he worked on his family farm and probably attended nearby Cudback School, grade school. He died in California at the age of 78 and is buried on his family plot at Vermilion, Ohio. The runner design is still used today and produces hydropower in the U.S. and all around the world. Later designs, such as the Turgo turbine planted in 1919, were fashioned after the Pelton wheel. Again, it's an impulse water turbine in which most water motors were designed. Water turbines and water wheels were not new, but Pelton's innovation was to shape the buckets on the wheel so that the impinging water was reversed in direction, thus extracting more energy from the wheel. For greatest efficiency, the buckets are receding at half the speed of the water so that the water is brought to a stop. Pelton wheel was first used at the Mayflower Mine in Nevada City, California in 1878. By 1879, he tested a prototype of the Pelton wheel at the University of California. 1887, a miner attached a Pelton wheel to a dynamo and thereby produced the first hydroelectric power in Sierra Nevada mountains. Pelton turbine works best with relatively small amount of water at high pressure and usually has an energy conversion, usually over 90% efficient. Getting to the Pelton wheel. Not sure, it looks like they might have burned this onto a wooden cover for a packing crate. There it is, an engraving showing the cupped part of the wheel. Notice the bolts. The wheels tend to get worn by any grit, any soap that might be in the water. They wear, and they're replaceable. Interchangeable parts. Rather than changing a whole wheel, they only have to change the cups. There's one. There's where the water would come in. Simply falls away below and drives the wheel, which drives the generator. Simplicity. There's one of the large wheels. Not at all complex. There's that dividing portion. This is where it bolts onto the wheel.
So did he have a patent?
Pardon?
Did they have patents in those days?
Mm-hmm. These are still built today.
Right, but you kept saying.
Little ones.
They changed them and they used his, so the patent ran
His
out, the name
design.
was something else.
Yeah, patents evolve, you know, a little change in some aspect of it. His early ones, you can see the rounded shapes out here versus this one looks like Batman and gives a larger entry point for that early attack of the cut by the water. And here's another one, interchangeable parts. This one is cast in bronze. So there's no changing the parts. They are part of the whole wheel assembly, which is not such a bad thing if you've got a small wheel to change. Those wheels practically dwarf the men who are working on them. This is in Germany. And it's a modern Pelton wheel powered generator. And here's where the water comes in. This mechanism operates the nozzle, and inside the nozzle there is an obstruction that moves back and forth, and they control the amount of the water going out through the nozzle. And the thing is, you know, the thing is actually massive. In the yesterdays, some of the old applications, the Pelton Water Wheel Company, motor number 0. You hook it up to a pipe, and here's a valve. Wheel spins around, drives a pulley that you could use on, what, your bandsaw, your table saw, your whatever. No electricity involved. Pelton wheel over here, a feed pipe, some kind of a mechanism that drives a hammer that hits a gong, and here's the gong cover to a fire alarm, and these were common in England. How about that fan? No electricity needed, the water comes in, spins around. My only question is, where does it go? I guess it drops out and goes in here and out through the wall. Another one, this is a little giant water motor. Volgiano's. Very similar kind of thing, running a washing machine.
No, sorry.
Amazing. That's how
A sewing machine.
amazing.
North Bloomfield, California. First named Humbug in 1851 by unlucky miners. It was a placer camp that served as a supply to the diggings in that area. Grew into a booming town of about 1,229. About. During the height of hydraulic operations at Malakoff Diggings, the hydraulic mining was effective and profitable, but it severely damaged the environment. Tailings from the mines destroyed farmlands, raised the bed of a river higher than the city, disrupted navigation of the Sacramento River and San Francisco Bay. 1884, laws passed and Judge Lorenzo Sawyer halted the practice of hydraulic mining with an injunction against dumping the tailings into the state's water.
Tailings are leftover crap.
Tailings being the waste. And you can see they just washed the hills away, took all the gravel, ran it through sluices, and culled out nuggets or flakes. One form of mining. I saw it in some cowboy movie or other, I don't remember which one it was. You can see how the hillside's been cut away, and here's all the tailings. Looks like a beach down here. And it's just that everything is all broken down and everything flows downhill and into the rivers, clogs up the rivers. Over yonder is one of the water cannons. High pressure water came down into the pipe in here and went out. It's like a fire hose, a fire nozzle kind of thing. Just washing the dirt away instead of digging. Pelton Water Wheel in continuous use, Pacific Gas and Electric Drum Powerhouse, number 4, 1929 through 1987. Produced 18,000 horsepower at 257 RPM and enough electrical power for 16,000 households. 12 feet in diameter, weighed 15 tons. Built in San Francisco by the Pelton Company. And the Constitutional Bicentennial Gift to Nevada City by Pacific Gas and Electric, the plaque, dedicated in 1987. And another one, Pelton Water Wheel Manufacturing, first commercially manufactured here at George Allen's Foundry and Machine Works in 1879. So it marks the place where these were made. A unique feature was a series of paired buckets shaped like bowls, spoons, and separated by a splitter that divided the incoming water jets into two parts. Pelton wheels were providing energy to operate industrial machinery throughout the world. 1888, Lester Pelton moved his business to San Francisco, but granted continuing manufacturing rights to Allen's Foundry, where the wheels were manufactured into the early 1900s. Then most local mines shifted to electric power. The mines. Lon's model of the Pelton wheel is actually operating a pump, which would have pumped water up out of the mines that were in the ground. Lon, you talked about those fish. You know, can't build new dams because of the fish. Well, parting thought, always something new. Here's a runner that is fish friendly. The fish can fall right through it, doesn't have to chop them up. And I'm done. And it's Lon's turn to come and tell us more about all of the above. We'll get you some more lights.
Two little sidebars to his thing. One, at the Rainbow Dam in Windsor, there's turbines. And at the base of the turbine, the base of the water turbine, is a barren that's been there since it was built in, I can't tell you the date and now, but been there for 100 or more years. The barren itself, on the bottom of the shaft, is in water all the time. And it's ebony, and it's never been changed. It's really strange. It's a piece of wood, and it's in water, and it doesn't wear. How this happens, I have no idea, because there's always silt, you think, but this barren has been there. And the Pelton, the Germany Pelton wheel, you notice he talked about that thing that goes down in the nozzle? Well, that's controlled very simply today with computers and what have you, so that, you know, electricity is used heavily during the day, more heavily in the hot day, less at night. And how do you control that water? Well, this thing just pulls back and forth just by the computer to limit the amount of water that goes into it. The other types of wheels, they had to have gates and all sorts of things to limit the water. But this thing just inserts back and forth in the nozzle as it needs its power. Okay, I'm Lon Pelton. This is my father, Howard Pelton, and we all have these great big ears, so we can all tell, and Lester has this big set of ears. See how similar they are? Lester was, my father is Lester, excuse me, let me get it right. My father's great-grandfather was Lester Pelton's brother. Lester Pelton was my great-grandfather's brother. I'll get it right. I'm dyslexic, I can turn things around anywhere. Okay, so he, and the funny thing was, he was born Friday the 13th, January 1908, and he died March 14th, 1908. So you can figure out that difference, which was way. But he, that's how we're related. No other way. Now this, when you finish, you can look at these. These are showing the wheels too, that he has in the thing. I decided to reproduce the same thing. Now these are little silver trays, glass, you know, that you put a glass on, what do you call them, like a coaster. So they're silver plated. These are silver plated spoons, and the spoons in the center here, these are made out of spoons, and they're shaped like the cow's nose. Okay, and we'll demonstrate. Put this over here. Hope it works. Some of the water, but on the wheel, on all the circulars, that's splashes, but most of the water's going straight down. Very simple thing, and it was very simple for him to put tin cans on the wheel and make it work within hours of when he discovered this ability of pressure into the cow's nose. And the more I turn it up, the faster it goes, and you can bring any speed you want. And then I got a little gauge here, I can get it even. So that, as electricity is needed, more electricity is needed, then if the valve opens it and gives it more power. Right, it's a 10 pump. I could have had a generator, I could have had a compressor. No, I just took the water, gold mine, because that's what he started with, was the gold mine.
Just turn the gravity up so the water falls down there. Turn up the gravity so the water falls down.
Yeah, well, of course I didn't do it as... And later he did a second nozzle, one came down and one went straight ahead, and I don't know, in the book it tells why he did that. There's very little changes he made over the decades that he was involved in it that improved on it. But I haven't followed that too much. I only learned about this when my wife and I went out to the Apollo Dam, and we had to sign in, and this person walked up to us and said, "Are you Bill Pelton?" Yes. He said, "We've got something to show you." And they took us down and showed us the one in the Hoover Dam, rather. And that runs, the Hoover Dam Pelton wheel is still running there, and all that's used is for to generate electricity for the mill, for the power dam. That's all it does. The wheels that are in the major wheels, I don't know what they are. They're not Pelton wheels, because they were put in when it was built.
The turbines in Rainbow are all bladed turbines.
Yeah.
Open houses there.
Oh, good. Right, yeah. But can you believe the bearings in the bottom of that thing still the same bearing?
It
is.
It's amazing.
I remember walking into that and he was walking.
Yeah, we did a tour of it. My father used to have a job when he was in the bank. On the days that they shut the turbines down, my father used to dive on the street at the dam and clean all the wood and trash off from it. My mother used to just go full. Because
Shut off.
would water shut off, but would somebody turn it on, would something, she always was worried
When it was in there.
it would have sucked him against the screen, of course. But that was a part-time job that my dad had.
I love your nuggets here.
Yeah.
So what was his shaft power used for at that time?
It started with him taking water out of the mines.
Well, that seems to me,
That was part of his,
They got a decent piece.
I believe one of the first, I think it says one of the first things that he did was when they started dig mines,
seems to me that's like trying to get perpetual motion out of something, to use the water power that's coming down into the mine from...
So you need a collection?
No, the water power was somewhere else. It was in a creek beside the
I'm
mine.
doing the best I could.
And that's what worked, that's what ran it. And then this pump had a hose down in the bottom of the mine which would suck the water out.
You can't suck more than about 30 feet, you know.
Well, I don't know about the pump. In fact, there isn't too much in either one of the books about the pumps that and it was somebody else's pump. It wasn't his pump. Somebody had developed the pump.
Because aren't there...
I'm just excited that there's a use for spoons now.
One other little thing about, one other little thing about the Pelton wheel. There were two Pelton wheels at Windsor. One of them was at the Bedortha Brothers Mill, right behind Larson's Hardware. And Larson's Hardware had a Pelton wheel. And the housing is still there, but the wheel is gone. But it was in a sub-basement in the mill. And that was a grist mill. And it's a tragedy too, because that grist mill, all the thatchers, the belting, everything upstairs is still there from that grist mill. And many, in the 60s, I put in a sewer on Windsor, in center Windsor, at a house that was owned by the man who owned the mill. And we were digging the sewer, and we dug up a big stone grist wheel, which I now have, which I would love to have back at the grist mill, and to have this grist mill be a thing that people can see. This is the oldest existing thing in Windsor of the 1700s that still exists and is almost all there. But it's a family situation, I guess. Now, Mother, Mrs. Larson, has passed away, and you know, we've tried to buy the mill, but there's some problems there, and it's all tied up. But it's something that should be saved in Windsor. That's really very early piece of Windsor that's still there.
It's where the grocery store is and the Larsons?
No, well, yes, a little mini mart,
Yeah.
milk mart, right, yes, that was added on later in the 50s, or 40s and 50s. The grist mill is the building itself, the wooden building.
Has anyone taken a lot of pictures of the inside and stuff? Yeah.
Have I, of the grist?
Has anybody taken?
No, not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. I did bring the Historic Society in before they closed it and showed them all what was there and tried to get them interested, but there's only so much the Historic Society can do. They really can't. It's got to be some entrepreneur that's going to go in there and seize the thing and do what it needs to be done. But how do you get that to happen?
Yeah, I'm concerned the first step is just preserving the pictures, because the building might be destroyed tomorrow, who knows?
Well, the whole back roof is leaking in. They've got canvases on it, but it's leaking in. And also, in the sub-basement of this, where the water went through the Pelton wheel and then went out through the back of the building, where it went through the building, there's 3 or 4 stairs. You walk up on this platform, and you walk over, and it's Windsor's first flush toilet. It's a 2-holer. You sit down and dump, and it goes out the brook. That was Windsor's first flush toilet. And it's still there. Well, it's been underwater now for 15 years because he hasn't maintained the pumps that I put in it. We used to keep that all pumped dry because there's no sluice or anything, and it's just below ground, and it collects water. But it may be rotten, but it's, I always tell people it's Windsor's flush toilet. His first flush toilet is still there. That was the first wooden tank toilet. All you did is pull the lever, water started down the pipe, then you let go, and the pressure sucked down, and it was a siphon, and it siphoned the water up. It didn't have all these valves and rubber gaskets and all this stuff. It was still good. We have 2 of them in our house. I mean, it's a simple thing. You rarely ever have to touch them again. It's just a valve. You open it, it starts the siphon, and siphons right down into the septic tank. No, all those little valves and that float, and that rubber gasket that's always going bad, not in the old toilet. Bill, another good sometime program would be the bell pump.
Ah, okay.
You know about the bell pump?
Nope.
Is that when it stands in?
Bell pump's a big round thing, and it's set in the brook.
We have one in
It's
Enfield.
set in the brook.
Enfield Historical Society has one in the basement.
Right.
It's about that big.
Yeah, and
Ah.
the water would go through and the little piston went like, and there was one on River Street in the brook, which used to pump the water all the way up into the top of the tower, but only a 1/16 of a teaspoon at a time. It just go, just the pump running, and it would pump that water all the way up into the, it was quite a gadget.
Yeah. For those who don't know Lon, you know, you might have caught up with him in a newspaper in the past with his gigantic mosquito on the lawn of the Windsor Town Hall. The front step, yeah, okay, yeah, and dinosaurs along Route 159, and more things than I'm sure I know about. He came up 6 months ago, I guess we did a program called Fairy Tale, and it was about the ferries out on the river. And Lon has a beautiful model that he had built of the Bissell Ferry, and he brought it up and spoke with us about the
And you
Bissell
know
Ferry somewhat.
what happened after that? We found in our collection of stuff, and I had forgotten about, but a Pelton, John Pelton, bought the Bissell Ferry, and I can't tell you the date, and we got the deed. We have the actual deed, and he bought the ferry, but there was all these restrictions about if he didn't run it on time, and he didn't maintain it, and he didn't do this, the town of Windsor could take it back from him. But evidently, he bought the ferry, and we have this deed, and we had to have it deciphered by the Historic Society because the wording is sort of strange about numbers and the way they're used, but he,
Yeah,
so we
just
learned that section.
getting through the scroll work
Right.
of the lettering is tough enough.
When would that have been?
Then it ended in 18, but Mrs. Risley, when I did the Bissell Ferry, Mrs. Risley came and brought me these books of her father running the Bissell Ferry long after, until 1927, to bring people back and forth across the river for Northeast Utilities while they built those high-tension lines down by Taylor and Fenn Company.
Oh, yeah.
So he kept the ferry going from across then. So it was, you know, before 16, 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. I don't remember the day.
Was that a cable ferry? Was that
Yes,
held-
it was a cable ferry.
Held for going downstream on a cable?
Right. No, it went across the river and had lee boards that pushed
No,
it.
it was held, it was kept from going downstream.
Right, yes.
By the cable.
Right.
And then it would sail across by the
Right.
boards.
The board, and then you just
Okay.
turn the angle and pulled up one board and put down the other one and went back
I've
across.
always been fascinated by the one in Windsor Locks, which swung back and forth on a
Swung, yes.
cable. But
Yes,
didn't on a cable.
and I can't remember his name, the gentleman that ran the Historic Society in East Windsor asked me, I had the Bissell Ferry, I was still using it for various things, and he asked me to go out into the middle of the river before this bridge was put in and see if I couldn't find the ring that was in the center of the river. They believed it was still in the rock and thought that this bridge might cover it or whatever. And so we took the Bissell Ferry up there and we anchored it, and we went through with metal detectors. You won't believe the junk in the bottom of the river.
They just dropped the old suspension bridge, they just dropped
Well,
it in the
that's
river.
right, and everything that, what, 3 bridges there before
Three
that?
bridges, yeah.
And it was just metal, and you just, you know, we were finding metal constantly, and we finally had to give it up because we never could find, and we walked in there and tried to see if there was a ring, but never found a ring.
That area, I've looked out there myself, and the water's so shallow in the summertime, you barely get your knees wet
Right.
walking around
Yeah.
out there. But it's all filled with weeds, so it's very tough
And
to
junk.
see.
Is the pivot pier still there?
That's what I'm talking, we were
Yeah.
looking for. Oh, no, the pier one, that was a different one. They built a pier with the ring on it.
Yeah.
But that was the first one, I believe,
No, the pier came later.
came
It
later.
was first anchored normally.
Okay,
Yeah,
Well, there was a ring in the rock. See, that's all
Yeah.
rock down there, so the ring's set in the rock, but never found it.
Will the Historical Society have one of those?
they have a boulder that has a ring in it.
Yeah.
When they were constructing, they think they found it, but I believe it to be just an anchor for the sloops, because it was a loose boulder, it's about yay big. And really, that wouldn't have held the ferry back, given, you know, the pressure of the lee boards that go in that drive it back and forth across. So,
And also the seagrass, that was always a big problem. Windsor Historic Society still has the tool that they put on the cable ahead of the pulleys that raked the seagrass off, because the seagrass would just build up enormous amounts of weight, get into the pulleys and stop you in the middle of the river. But they've still got one of the tools there that was originally from the Bissell Ferry.
this is the value of the gatherings. I mean, we've got Lester's the town historian up in Suffield, and Lon, who's, you know, busy with Windsor Historical all the time, and Jerry Doherty does his photographic history of Connecticut with thousands and thousands of photographs of significant buildings and things. And, you know, the sharing, tidbits come up
And
and,
the coin finder.
yes. Yep,
Artifact.
artifact.
Yeah, actually, probably more artifacts than
Yeah.
coins.
Yeah, Bob Ellis documents things all over the place and puts them up on various sites. One is archive.org. He puts much stuff up there, and you can find things like the programs. YouTube is another place that he's put some of the videos up.
And one of my big projects is getting yearbooks digitized and online at archive.org. The library here had a bunch of books digitized, and I uploaded them recently, so if you're in Windsor Locks, you can put in, at archive.org, you can put in, say, like 1957 Windsor Locks high, and it should pop up. They don't have the complete set. The same with Suffield, we have some of the Suffields up there. In Enfield, we have all of our yearbooks going back from, all the way back to 1918. We had one lady that took and was researching her family, and she took and found her mother, her father, and her grandmother, which is really pretty cool. In the yearbooks.
Are they searchable?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're searchable if they're in a collection. In Enfield, I have it all in one collection. The high school, the two high schools, and also we have some middle school books. We don't have a complete collection of middle books. But if you go into the collection, over on the left-hand side, they have metadata and text. If you click on the text, you can search for somebody by name,
Yes.
which is really, really cool.
Keyword stuff.
The keywords.
Thank you.
And we also have in South Windsor and East Windsor, that all of the Ellsworth books are done. Ellsworth was 1962 or something like that, all the way back to the 40s. East Windsor, all of the yearbooks are done, pretty much.
Wonderful.
And if you come out of Hartford, my pet project is Weaver High, which was the most difficult. We have like 80 books up there now.
How about Windsor High?
Not yet. A little bit at a time.
I got 1957 for you if you want to start.
I actually bring a bunch of these, some of these were scanned already, but a lot of them that I do, I actually borrow them and physically take them up to Boston Library where they scan them. Archive.org has a scanning facility up there, especially like the Weaver ones, because those are irreplaceable. But it's pretty cool. If you get a chance, look online, archive.org, and just put that keyword in.
Archive.
Archive.org, archive.org. And that archive.org has millions of books too, that you can, old books that you can't find anywhere, and they also have newer books that you can actually borrow for like a couple weeks, I think it is. And if you're into music or anything, they've got it there.
Because the Yale,
Pardon?
there's an archive building in New Haven.
No,
It's
no,
got the
no.
original
No,
stuff?
no. This is archive.org. It's a nonprofit out of San Francisco, and they're collectors of the world knowledge, they say. And they have all the music, they have the books, there's all kinds of collections there.
Television programs even.
Pardon me?
Television programs even.
Oh, yeah,
All kinds of stuff.
they actively collect 100 TV stations 24/7 from around the world and keep that data for future generations. One of their key purposes of that is so that they can call politicians on, oh yeah, you said, politicians around the world, oh yeah, you said this at that time. It's amazing stuff.
And volunteers like you help to feed that material? Is that how it works?
They have, yeah, in a way, they have, I don't understand the mechanism of it, but there is somebody that actually collects all of Enfield stuff, and it's automatically uploaded.
Okay.
I think what they do is they put it
So
on
there was
automatic,
some-
somehow they put it on automatic and it just uploads. And so, it must cost a fortune. But they have not only this site in San Francisco, they also have a couple other places around the world with a backup type of, which is really cool. Archive.org. Amazing place.
Well, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we can have the outing here
You can find some of the old TV shows on there too.
in Windsor, but they had another program tonight, actually. I ran into Christine and I said, we scooped Lon up for our program.
The old
on
radio
30th.
shows, the old
You got
TV
something
shows,
else?
you can find some of those there.
It's
pretty neat.
Oh, really?
It's amazing.
I just want to get your, is that right?
ARCHIVE, no S.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Archive.org.
.org.
Yep.
And that's you?
No, that's the company that does it.
Oh,
And
okay.
I just, like, I got their digitized items here, and I uploaded them from my home computer. If you have any questions, feel free to call me.
Thank you.
I don't know
great.
what the turbine is.
Oh,
No. Only thing I know is the
But
baron on the bottom
the
of it is
the old radio shows, they're there. It's just a matter of finding them sometimes, you know?
well, I have to sort of block some of those out.
Oh, it's amazing. I love the new technology. It's just
Oh, I know it. It's just
totally amazing.
mind-blowing, and it
Really dense
gets
wood.
overwhelming.
But
But
the-
this is good to know where you can go back to find out
Some out of,
what we need to know in history,
Yeah.
because I enjoy history, and,
The yearbooks are really cool because some people have lost theirs, and yearbooks can actually take you right back to that time when you're in
when you say
school.
yearbooks, you just mean
High
Connecticut?
school, high school yearbooks. Any
I gotta get to the garbage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Massachusetts.
Oh, you have Massachusetts?
Massachusetts is in the process of trying to get all of their high school yearbooks digitized.
Really?
The Boston Public Library received funds and they gave it to the library, and the library sent them in.
That's where I
They're
grew up,
scanning
was
it.
in Massachusetts.
Hold
Like
it,
my wife
I
is
have the
from-
wrong
from
one. It's
Falmouth.
lignum vitae, not ebony. Lignum vitae.
The varying,
It's the same.
My wife is from
Bearing.
Falmouth.
the varying
So
rainbow.
that's what you're getting.
All of hers are digital. Where are you from?
I grew up in the house that had been lived in by one of the victims of Salem witchcraft. So
You from-
we got exposed to history like I can't believe.
Are you from Salem then?
Well, it was Salem Village was originally, but it's now Danvers.
Wonderful one.
It's been Danvers for quite a while.
100 years in a day, and I'm planning on checking out.
Yeah.
On the
My
6th of
parents-
January.
Was it Danvers High? What was the name of the high school?
The high school was Danvers High School. and that's where
Danvers
I
is
went to
more
high
famous
school.
for something else.
I'm sorry?
Danvers is more famous for something else.
There's a mental institution.
I'm thinking of that.
Witchcraft.
The prison.
Oh, yes, this great monster place on top of a hill, have you
Yes.
seen it? Oh, yeah.
No, but that's
We
what,
grew up with that.
yeah, when I think of
On
Danvers,
Route
I think of
1.
that.
Sorry, Brown, and don't go near that place, you know. Oh, I can see that.
Do you have another card?
Sure.
Tell me, what is Tony Segundo's status these days? Is he still alive?
And I got a board at home.
Thank you.
Tony passed.
He did pass on.
Yeah, his help, they had a